Hello, assalamu alaikum guys. Today we will discuss about the shoring and form work. So let's start from the shoring today. In the first part of this chapter, we have discussed about the scaffolding, and the second part of it going to be discussed, and we will going to be discuss about the shoring and the form work. So once we start with the shoring, then first of all, what shoring is? Temporary supports used to support the unsafe buildings or used to support the buildings while they are repaired are called shores, and the method of its construction is called shoring. Temporary shores are generally made of timber, but for the heavier loads, steel beams and braced sections are also used. Shoring can be used under the following circumstances: when walls bulge out, when wall crack due to unequal settlement of the foundations, and repairs are to be carried out to this cracked wall, when an adjacent structure needs pulling down, when openings are newly made or enlarged in a wall. Another point you can add over here: when excavation is needed to be done for the foundations or for the basements, then also we need certain temporary supporting system when excavation and for the foundations or for basements and foundations, you can add over here. There also we need and support for the basements and for the foundations. So there also we need a certain supporting system so that we can support the soil for the basement and also for the foundation purpose. You are excavating the soil, so the soil needs some support to be in contact and to do not come inside that particular opening, or if the openings are needed to be made within the wall. So the sides of the wall, those are load bearing structure, so the load is coming on the wall. So if you are going to be doing some or just making some openings within a already constructed wall, then it needs some supports from the top, from the sides. Okay, to provide this particular support, you need a certain type of the temporary structure. Similarly, if certain wall bulges out, so for the repair purpose, you need the rest part of the wall to be in contact, to be supported well, so that you can work or you can repair on that particular damaged part. Similarly, if the wall cracks out for any reason, okay, one of the reason is the unequal settlement of the foundation, but the reason may be any one, you need or you require the repair and the maintenance of this cracked part, this damaged part of the wall. So what you have to do, the rest part of the wall is needed to be supported at first, and then you can remove the damaged part and you can repair it. So for that particular case, again you need certain support for this wall, and that support is provided with the help of shoring. Similarly, when an adjacent structures need pulling down, okay, so obviously if you are going to be pulling down one part of the structure, so the rest part of the structure or that particular is needed to be support particularly and specifically at first, and then you can pulling down the other part of it. So this all kind of the structural, you can say, during construction, for the repair purpose, for the construction purpose, for excavation purpose, for the basement and the foundation, you need a certain temporary supporting system, and that temporary supports are going to be provided with the help of shoring. Okay, so this is the difference between the shoring and scaffolding. Scaffolding we are going to be provide just for the masonry work to do in any building, okay, for the paints on the wall and for the construction purpose. But once the repair and maintenance has to be done for the already constructed structure, then you need certain temporary supports also other than the scaffolding. Scaffolding is just to be provide you a support for the masons and for the materials for the at the construction site for the construction of the brickwork or the masonry work or any kind of the concreting work. But for the shoring, Okay, for the repair and the maintenance purposes, you are providing this temporary structure. So here in this slide, there are some examples of the shoring. Here the first one we will discuss, where you can see this wall. Here is the column. That column is attached with this wall. This complete wall you can see, and here you can see this wall has been damaged due to this larger crack coming in this wall. So maybe due to the load of the column that is coming outside, or maybe due to the upper loads. Okay, it's your wall collapsed or damaged, and it is no more able to carry the loads coming from the top side or from the sides, or it may be due to the foundation settlement. Okay, so there may be any reason, but anyhow damaged has been occurred, mean that is a cracked wall, and to repair this cracked wall we need to support all of the rest part of the buildings, and then we can start repairing work over here. So for that, this kind of the supporting system, these inclined elements, you can see these horizontal elements, these vertical elements, you can see this is of timber. This shoring is of timber. So shores has been provided in terms of the different components, and those components are needed to be joined with each other. Connections needed to be provided, and of course at the base supports are needed. So in this particular way, this whole temporary timber shores are going to be support the rest part, mean all of the beams and all of the columns, so that any person can repair that particular cracked wall. Similarly, if you see this figure, so you can see this is an excavation. Example of the excavation has been done, okay, within that particular trench. And for this particular case, there is a chance of the side walls of this foundation to be bulged out, or to be fall into the excavated portion. So what we need that particular support. So you can see these are the braces, the horizontal braces or the horizontal shores has been provided, that is of steel, and here the platform or the plates are there. Okay, vertical plates are there, those are going to be support or going to be apply the horizontal thrust to the side walls, so that they keep in contact and keep in its own position. Okay, and the soil from this side doesn't come within the excavated portion, within that particular excavated part. Okay, so in this way you can see this is all temporary structure, so you can remove afterwards once the excavation be done. Similarly, you can see over here, this is the beam, okay, over here. So this beam needed to be settled down, and this is all the cracked part, the damaged part. So here you can see this support, simple support, that is going to be provided to the wall, and it can support it, and you can do the repair work in that particular part of the wall. In this figure you can see this is the basement wall, and for the basement wall there is likely more chances for the soil in the excavated part, or in this deep excavation. It may be bulged outside, it may be fall inside of this particular opening or this particular excavated part. So what we need to do, we need to provide the anchors. Okay, these are going to be called as anchors. The anchors are provided just to be support this wall. This concrete wall has to be constructed, and the soil is needed to be supported by with the help of this all temporary structure. So once all of the excavation for the basement have to be done, so these can be removed. Here within the buildings you can see that the part of the wall, okay, above the openings are supported, and so that you can do work over here, you can cast the beam over here, lintel, and you can do some work in this opening for the window part. So you have to be support at first this part for the above the lintel for the walls, and then you can start doing any work underneath. Now we will discuss about the types of the shoring. They are classified into three classes according to their position in space: racking or inclined shores, horizontal or flying shores, vertical or dead shores. Okay, so one by one we will discuss. First of all, we will discuss about the inclined shoring. Okay, so this inclined shoring is also called as racking. In this method, the inclined members, rackers, are used to support the walls. This shoring consists of the following components, further components. Those are maybe the inclined member or wreckers, needles, cleats, braces, wall plates and sole plates. Okay. On right hand side you can see the figure where one wall is there. Okay, so this one is the wall, and here the floors. All the construction is needed to be done. So wherever you need some repair work, you need to support actually this wall anyhow, whatever the reason is or the cause is to provide the shoring is, but the purpose is that you need to provide the support to this wall. If this is the purpose, for that you are providing the inclined members. Okay, these are called wreckers. This is first inclined member, this is the second inclined member. So two kind of the connections, or you can say the supports are needed. One is that these inclined members you are providing, or the wreckers you are providing for the show, for this particular type of the shoring, needed to be have a particular joint with the wall, and secondly with the base, with the foundation. Okay, any kind, maybe soil as foundation you are providing. So this two parts or two sides of the wreckers needed to be supported well. So this connection of the wreckers with the wall to support it in to not to be fallen down. For this particular case, you need one or three more components. Those are called needles. First of all, we can provide a wall plate. Wall plate is a plate, maybe of steel, maybe of wood, that you are providing just aligning with the inclined wall. This is an inclined member that you can just provide it without the connection, or with a very smaller connection. You can provide it, or you can attach it with the wall, okay, along the vertical plane of it. And then what you can do, you can apply the wreckers, and these wreckers, with the help of by providing the needles, you can see this is kind of the nail that you can provide. This is called as needle in this particular case. This needle is going to be provide you a connection of the wreckers with the wall plate and with the wall itself. So in this way it is going to be connected. The system is properly jointed, and further you can provide the cleat to provide further support to this wall plate and these wreckers connection. Okay, so these cleat are kind of a nut. Okay, and your needle is kind of a bolt. Like in steel, you are providing the nut. Okay, this is, let's suppose, a bolt, kind of a bolt. Okay, so here you can have the threads of the bolt, and you can provide the nut outside of it. Okay, so by rotating the nut inside of it, you can tighten up this screw. Okay, similarly this needle can be inserted inside of all these members, and the cleat is kind of a nut, so to provide the more tighten up that particular system or that particular connection. Now once you will come on the base, okay, foundation, then we need a sole piece, okay, or sole plate. So this bottom side, you can see this inclined member, and it is going to be embedded inside the soil to provide a proper support at the foundation of these wreckers. And further stability can be provided by providing the braces in any direction. These may be inclined, those may be horizontal. Okay, these kind of the bracing you can provide the vertical, but the main component of this kind of the shore is the inclined member. Those are the wreckers. All other components are the further supporting components for these wreckers. This slide comprises of somewhat more detail about the wrecking, in which we can read it by one. First of all, inclination. The wreckers are to be inclined in the ground at an angle between 45 degrees to 75 degrees. These are the recommended or the generalized general range of the angle of inclination for the wrecking purpose, to give you an efficient working of it. For tall buildings, the length of the wrecker can be reduced by introducing the rider wrecker. Wreckers should be properly braced at intervals. Size of the wrecker should be decided on the basis of anticipated thrust from the wall. So we are not cannot specify the size of the wreckers, because it depends upon the thrust coming from the wall, that how much load you are supporting with the help of this particular wrecker. So that depends, going to be finalized and going to be give you the final sizes of the wreckers. The center line of the wrecker and the wall should meet at the floor level. The sole plate should be properly embedded into the ground on an inclination and should be proper section and the sizes. Okay, so it should be designed in such a way that it is going to be provide you a proper foundation for your wreckers within the soil. Then comes flying or horizontal shoring. This shoring consists of a horizontal beam, horizontal strut, inclined members called as racking strut. So two kind of the strut we are providing, and these struts may be the horizontal or the racking. So here you can see, first we will discuss about all of the components, and then we come to the figure to explain those components. The struts are fixed at their one end to the wall plate with the help of needles and cleats. The other end of the struts are supported with the help of wedges and straining beams. This type of the shoring is used for supporting walls of two adjacent buildings temporarily. So here again come to the figure. In the figure it will be more clear that these are the walls. Again, those are needed to be supported relative to each other. Okay, so here inside of this space we need to do some work, some construction work, or we need to remove that particular part of the building in between these two walls. Those was earlier be supported by these two walls. Now we are eliminating or removing that particular part of the building, part of the structure from out of these two walls or in between from these walls. So we need to support these two walls. Okay, so inside of this opening or this particular spacing. So for that, first of all, we are providing again in the similar way like the racking shoring, wreckers, we are going to be provide a wall plate. That plate is again going to give you an alignment, vertical alignment with the wall itself, complete wall, you can see. Okay, so this is the wall plate, just adjacent to your wall to be supported, you are providing this wall plate. And then from the wall plate you can see the horizontal members and one member and the inclined member. This horizontal member, okay, this is called as horizontal shore or horizontal beam or horizontal strut. And these 1, 2, 3 and 4, okay, these are the inclined members, and these inclined members are going to be called as the racking strut. Okay, so here it is written. So racking struts are provided in an inclined way. So again we need a proper connection between all of these components. So to support the inclined member with the wall plate and the wall itself, we are going to be provide the same system of needle and cleats like nut bolt. Okay, and to support the horizontal member we are providing a straining piece or the straining beams. Okay, piece or the beams. So these are in inclined way. So if we are going to be I will going to show you in 3 dimension. So in 3 dimension the wall is continuous and maybe it is connected with the wall, it is one kind of the platen, and again in the 3 dimension way you are providing at a certain interval another horizontal shore. Okay, and for that you are providing another straining beam. This beam is a continuous one. Okay, in the 3rd dimension, the transverse direction, this beam is continuously moving on. Okay, so it is placed in the transverse direction, in the 3rd direction, below and above this horizontal strut. This type of the shoring is used to supporting walls of 2 adjacent buildings temporarily. So as I have told you that these 2 walls are needed to be supports relative to each other, and in between you are providing to control the horizontal thrust of these walls coming in this particular direction. So we are providing a resistive system, supporting system, so that it can be hold this wall in the place where it was actually. So do not disturb the other part of the structure. just we are going to be do work in this particular spacing. After the work needed to be done, whatever the purpose of providing this shoring is, then again we can remove this temporary structure and we can go on. Here in these figures you can see, okay, that these two walls are needed to be supported with each other. So you can see that these horizontal supports, these inclined supports with the help of the steel frame are provided in the form of shores. So here also this wall and this wall is needed to be supported, and temporarily you are providing the steel tubes and the steel beams, and of course these are the straining beams in the lateral direction. Okay, so those are connecting all of the horizontal strut. So inclined struts, racking strut and the horizontal strut are provided, and finally you can provide this shoring as in hole in between these two walls. Finally comes dead or the vertical shoring. This shoring consists of the vertical members which are placed outside the walls of the building undergoing alteration. Okay, so wherever the alteration or the maintenance or the repair needed to be done, so what we can do, if there is no space to provide any supporting system inside of the building, then we need to provide the shoring outside of the wall. So that can be provided in terms of dead or the vertical shoring. These vertical members are called as dead shores. They rest on a continuous horizontal piece called sole piece. The horizontal members passed through the walls called needles. Props are provided between the needles and the floors to support them. The dead shores and props are tightened by the wedges. So in the next slide I will show you in the figure what are these components are. So first of all you have to remember about the dead shore, the vertical members. Those are the main components or the members for the vertical shoring, and to support these dead shores we can provide the horizontal piece, the sole piece and horizontal member passing through the walls like needles. Props are again the vertical members, and finally the wedges. One by one we will see in the figure in the coming slide. So this is the particular wall that needs to be supported with the help of shoring. So you can see that this is the main, you can say, vertical shore, that is the dead shore. Okay, that is embedded within the soil with proper supporting system, foundation system, and then that wall is needed to be supported. So there should be a connection between the vertical component and the wall itself needed to support. So for that particular case we need a horizontal member that passed through the wall, and on the other side of the wall, outside of the wall, it is going to be again supported with the dead shores. Okay, on both of the sides you can see this is also vertical members, dead shores, and these are supported on the needles. The needle is the connecting members. So here also another dead shore, vertical shoring, and the props are provided. Those are again passed to the needles and providing a supporting system. And the sole plates, if in other direction, the front side of the wall, if you will see, then this dead shore in the inclined you can say way, another dead shore, another dead shore. So here if the front side of the wall you will see, you can see that the 3 shores has been provided. So above that needles be there in inclined direction, in the transverse direction, and below the supporting the foundation system in terms of wedges or the sole piece or the sole plate is provided. So that may be isolated sole plate, mean you are providing for each dead shore separately, or you can provide, if the spacing is less, then you can provide it as an whole. Okay, so either way is okay. This type of shoring is used for supporting temporarily for the walls for rebuilding or deepening of the foundations, or to provide the large openings in the wall for doors and windows. Now this is that was it for the shoring part, and now we are going to start with the formwork or the shuttering. These two works, you can say words are used, but still there is a difference between formwork or shuttering. We will discuss later on. The temporary support beneath and at the sites of precast or cast in situ concrete work is called the formwork or shuttering. Requirement of a good formwork are: it should be strong enough to support the dead and the live loads during construction. Number 2, construction should be such that it can be easily removed. Number 3, it must be so designed that it can be used several times. Number 4, it should be watertight as far as possible. Number 5, it should have plain surfaces so that they may provide good finished surfaces after removing of your formwork or shuttering. So here the word or is written, but there is a difference between formwork and shuttering. You can mark a slash over here, okay, that formwork and shuttering, or formwork slash shuttering, you can also say that. So actually this whole assembly of the formwork or shuttering is provided at once, but there is a difference between formwork and shuttering. What this difference is, first of all we will discuss about the definition, that why we provide the formwork. Formwork is provided to support the concrete work. If the slab is needed to be casted at the rooftop, that will be the first step of the construction after the foundation. Once the foundation has been laid, okay, then what you need to do, you need to cast the lintel. Lintel mean the slab casting, roof casting, okay, the general word is roof, but actually technically we say it is as a slab casting. Slab casting mean that you have to pour the plastic concrete, the flowing concrete on the top of your building to make the roof structure, to make the slab. First of all you have to tie up all of the steel at the top, and then you have to pour the concrete. If any mold or any structure that is going to be containing or hold that particular concrete inside of it is not available over there, then how you can cast the concrete or pour the concrete at site? So you need a certain kind of the molds so that the shape of the beam, shape of the column and shape of the slabs needed to be maintained. And for that particular purpose you need a particular molds to in the shape of the beam, to make the shape of the beam and to make the shape of the slabs. And then you can tie up. First of all you are going to be provide the wooden members or the steel members to give you that particular kind of a mold, so that within that you can pour the concrete. Okay, now it is at the top. Once the molds are provided, okay, those are actually going to be shaping or restructuring the concrete, all of the concrete, and those are holding the concrete till 28 days so that it can be hardened fully. Okay, at that particular time you need to be put your formwork at that particular level, okay, at particular higher level, raised levels, at the roof level. So what does it means? From the roof till the foundation you need a proper supporting system for the formwork to be at place. Okay, for that particular supporting system to the formwork we are providing in terms of shuttering. Okay, these may be the horizontal members, those may be the vertical members, those may be the inclined members. Okay, in any form the wooden member or the steel members you can provide to support that particular structure you have provided as a mold to hold all of the concrete in the form for the beams, for the slabs and for the columns itself. Okay, even the walls of the concrete, if the basement walls are needed to be casted, so you need to be hold all of the concrete into a certain mold. Okay, that particular molds are going to be called as formwork, in which at first you are pouring the concrete, and how you are supporting this formwork in the form of shuttering. So this total assembly can be called as formwork or shuttering. Okay, so this is the thing. So all of the requirements we have studied earlier. Now types of the formwork. First of all, for the floors and for the beams. Generally for the floor and the beams we are going to be cast the concrete at once, mean at one time. Why? Because your floors are going to be give you, the beams are emerging from the roof slabs. Okay, so what we can do, we can provide the molds in terms of these hatched part is all formwork. that is the initial mold, maybe of wood or maybe of steel, that is going to be give you particular shape of all of the structural components. So here it is the beam, you can see, okay, this is rectangular beam, and this is the slab. So according to the designed thickness of the slab, okay, from the top and the required depth of the beam, you are going to be deciding about your formwork, the sizes of the formwork, and depending upon the concrete load of the concrete, the main force of the concrete that is coming on it, that load is coming on the formwork, you have to properly design your formwork, okay, that what should be the sizes, the thicknesses, the length, the width, like this, if the steel plates are used or the wooden platens. So once this mold has been placed, then further these formwork need a certain supporting system, okay. If we start from the top side, so you can see this is the whole concrete of the slab and this is whole concrete of the beam. So these are the mainly forms, okay, formwork. This is the beam formwork and this is the slab formwork, okay. So you can also label this as beam form, okay, this is beam formwork. So this is the slab form, okay. So further this system, this whole formwork needs a further support. This further support can be provided in terms of different components. You can see the labeled, these are, first of all we will discuss the list of these components and then we will discuss in the figure. It consists of the sole plates, wedges, props, head tree, planks, batten, ledgers. So starting from the sole plate from the bottom, this definition is same. If the vertical members are there in this supporting system for the concrete work specifically, then we need a certain foundations, okay, to support it. So this in terms of sole plate you can provide. Then comes the wedges, okay. So wedges are again a part of the foundation with above the sole plate. This is the plate that is the bottom one component. So above the sole plate you can provide the wedges, okay. So these are the wedges that you can provide just to be adjust the height of these vertical members, okay. Sometimes these heights needed to be reduced, sometimes needed to be increased. So later on you can adjust these heights with the help of wedges. So actually if I am going to be enlarge these wedges, so these are like this on one side and second wedge is like this, okay. So by moving this wedge, these two wedges out, you can reduce the height. By moving these wedges inside, you can increase the height, okay. So these are the wedges and the purpose of providing wedges. Then comes the props. So coming above the foundation, you can see the vertical members. So this vertical member, and these are called as the props, okay, the vertical members. So these are called vertical post or props. So here label is not there, so you have to show with the help of arrows. These are the vertical posts or props. So now we have to divide these vertical post or props for the beam and for the slab separately, because at the top of these vertical props or the vertical posts, we have to provide the connection system to the formwork of the beam and to the formwork of the slab separately, okay, that is separate. So we will discuss one by one. First of all we will discuss the vertical props. Those are supporting the formwork of the beam, okay. For that, above the vertical prop at the top, you need to provide a head tree. A vertical platen, and horizontal platen is needed, that is called head tree. That head tree with the help of inclined supporting members or the braces are going to be connecting with the props, and that is going to be supporting the beam formwork at the end, okay. So your beam concrete, the concrete of the beam is has been poured or casted within the form, and that form is going to be resting on the head tree, and the load from the head tree coming through these braces and also vertically in the props, and from the props the load goes down into the foundation through the sole plates. Okay, so this is the load transformation. Okay, so you have to remember this load transformation. Okay, that how load transferred from the concrete of the beam to the concrete formwork, beam formwork, from the beam formwork to the head tree, to the head tree to the props, and to the props to the foundation soil with the help of sole plate. Okay, the load transformation flow chart is needed to be remembered for all of you guys. Then we talk about the slab. So for the slab, if we talk about, if we see the top part of our vertical post, then we can see the joist. Okay, this is a smaller piece of the wood that you are placing above the vertical post just to avoid the punching shear within the formwork. And to again further to avoid it, you are providing the horizontal platen, okay, that is called batten, and these battens are further supported through the in transverse direction beams. Those are called ledgers. Okay, these are in the inclined direction, mean in the transverse direction, lateral direction, you are providing these beams. These are called as ledgers. So finally the formwork is supported with the help of battens, and the load from the batten, first of all the concrete of the slab, the slab concrete load comes on the slab formwork, from the slab formwork to the batten, from the batten to the joist, to the joists, from the joist to the vertical props, and from the vertical props to the sole plate and towards the foundation. Okay, so this is the flow chart for the load transformation from the concrete of the slab to the foundation. Okay, so in this way all of the components are carrying load and transferring it towards the foundation. And then comes the cleat. This is the simple part, like joist you are providing the cleat, and these are the brackets or the braces to support the head tree for the beam formwork. And then comes the horizontal braces. Inside of it you can provide any kind of the braces to support the main vertical components. These braces may be inclined. Okay, you can also provide the inclined braces. You can provide the horizontal brace, more than one. Okay, it's okay, anywhere. So this is only one kind of the brace that has been shown over here, but the number of the braces depends upon the stability of your whole vertical props. Okay, that how much it is required. So the beam from formwork rest on the head tree, I have told you. Slab formwork rest on the battens and joist. If prop height are more than 8 feet, then the horizontal braces are provided, I have told you. Okay, or the inclined one also you can provide. So here you can see for the building formwork, so you can see all of the components, vertical components. Okay, and you can see the formwork. So in this figure it's also clear that first of all you are going to be provide the formwork, and all this greyish part is the concrete that has been poured, okay, to make the concrete slab. Similarly here you can see the steel shuttering. This is the vertical props and horizontal bracings you are providing over here, and this is the formwork. Okay, you can see these wooden or the steel plates in the terms of formwork. So above that formwork the concrete needed to be placed. Then comes formwork for the concrete walls. It consists of the timber sheeting, vertical post, horizontal members, wreckers, stacks and wedges. So you can see inside of these mold, these vertical members. Okay, so this is called timber sheeting. So within these two sheets you need to pour the concrete to make the wall. So equal to the thickness of the wall you are making the distance, okay, in between these two sheets, and these sheets are further supported with the help of the vertical members. Those are called the vertical post, the horizontal members, the inclined members, wreckers, and below you are providing the supporting members, okay, in terms of wedges and stakes. So these are embedded inside the ground to provide the support. So in this way this two sheets are provided, and in between the concrete can pour to cast the wall, concrete walls. After completing one side of the formwork, reinforcement is provided at the place, and then the second side of the formwork. This is the formwork for the concrete column. So you can see again it is of wood, okay, all. So inside of this particular space you have to cast the concrete, you have to pour the concrete for the column, and before that you have to tie up all of the steel of reinforced. If it is reinforced concrete, then you have to tie up the steel inside of it at first, and then you have to pour the concrete. So to support this rectangular portion or this form, you are providing the side planks, you are providing the bolts, you are providing the yoke, okay, and you are providing simple nuts, okay, to tighten up the bolts inside the yokes. So in this way, side and end planks, yoke, nut and bolts. Two end and two side planks are also joined by the yokes and the bolts. Okay, so on one side it's yoke, and on the wooden piece, and on these two wooden pieces are connected with each other with a large bolt. Okay. So here the formwork has been shown for the rectangular column and for the circular column. This is of steel, okay, this is of wood, and this is of steel. So you can see this is the yoke, okay, the frame, the rectangular frame to support or just to tighten up the formwork, and these are the inclined wreckers you can also provide to support your vertical formwork. And here also it is the horizontal, you can see the steel, okay, that is going to be tighten up, and then you can pour the concrete inside. Tie up the steel first of all, and then you can cast the concrete inside to make a column. The last topic that we'll discuss today is the removal of the formwork. Time of formwork removal depends on the following factors. When to remove the formwork? It's very important. It depends upon the type of the cement. If the rapid hardening cement is there, then it is going to be requiring the lesser time as compared to the normal concrete, ordinary Portland cement, OPC, simple. So if the cements are rapid hardening, then those formwork needed to be removed earlier as compared to OPC. Ratio of the concrete mix. The rich ratio concrete gains strength earlier as compared to the weak ratio concrete. So for the rich ratio concrete, you have to remove the formwork earlier as compared to the weak ratio concretes. Then very important, weather condition. Hydration process accelerates in the hot weather conditions. So what you have to do, you have to remove the formwork once the hydration process, your concrete is going to be hardened. So it depends upon, in hot weather it gets accelerates the hydration process, you can remove your formwork earlier. But for the conditions when it is humid condition or it is wetty conditions, so for that you have to remove the formwork at later stages. For more days you have to you have to wait for removal of the formwork. So the time of the removal of the formwork is that you have to wait till the complete procedure of the hydration process. Okay, complete hardening of the concrete, you have to wait. So here one table is given, that is from the ASTM standard, in which the beam, sides and wall, the structural members are given, and depending upon that the type of the cement, OPC or the rapid hardening cement, the time of removal of the formwork is given. You can read it by yourself, like for beam, side, walls and columns. For normal concrete, ordinary Portland cement, 2 to 3 days required to remove the formwork, and for the rapid hardening just 2 days. For the slabs, vertical supports remain in contact, where you have to wait for 4 days for OPC and 3 days for the rapid hardening cement. Similarly, all of the durations are written, you can see by yourself. Thank you so much guys. See you in online session.